Okay, this is now the Tarot Q&A number 7, and it's a follow-up to the last one because I want to make a couple of points that will help you, I think, in making sense of horoscope spreads. First is a technical point. So yesterday, or whenever it was, I showed you this diagram, and it was to show you what a horoscope looks like with the 12 spokes. And I put the numbers around 1 is the first house and 2 is the second house and so on. Then somebody sent me a horoscope spread that she had done, but as you can see, it's as if the cards are pointing to the middle. And if you've done it that way, okay, but the better way is to do it this third picture that I'll show you here, where you have the cards laid in a circle, but vertically. And this means that when you turn the card, it's going to be easy to know if it's upright or reversed. If you don't use reverse cards, then it doesn't matter. But generally speaking, the best format for laying cards is lay them vertically and start over at the 9 o'clock position. So you go 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, and so on. So it's the first house, second house, third house, fourth, fifth, sixth, and all the way around. Okay, that was that. The second thing is, it occurred to me in the last few hours, when you're looking at a horoscope spread or when you're looking at any card, you don't have to say everything about that particular card and relate it to the question, because you have to leave out a lot of information. Partly because you don't have time to say everything that you know. And even if you only know that much, you still have to leave out most of it because it's not going to be relevant for the answer. It's not going to be important for the questioner. And how do you know? I think you just you figure it out at the time. And so you make sense of it at the moment. So can't think of an example, but I may come back to that. I made some notes. So, okay. When I was thinking about me getting the devil reverse in the first house yesterday. And so if I look at the devil card, I could talk about the mark on the devil's hand, but somehow, given the question about me at the moment, somehow the mark in the devil's hand doesn't seem important or relevant. And the fact that the devil is sitting on a half cube, depending on the question, that could be important, but somehow it isn't for me. But I wrote down two things. One, I wrote down being stuck. So the question is about a person and not about a long distance trip or a short distance trip or friends or whatever it happens to be. This is from Meanings of the Houses in a Horoscope. But being stuck could be what I look at when I look at the devil, because the man and the woman, the people, are chained with their neck and they can't really move around that much. So the devil is reversed. So maybe what I do is I take the idea of being stuck and apply it to me at the moment, plus the fact that the card is upside down. Recently, I've been thinking I'm stuck and I'm not doing that much. And I mentioned it in a way yesterday with the third house and the nine of swords, that I haven't been doing much about the tarot book or about the other side. So, but with the devil reverse, maybe I'm not as stuck as I think I am. And that can be something that I learned from the horoscope spread, that actually, if I were to make a list of different factors and different projects and so on, I can discover that I'm not actually as stuck as I think I am. That if I'm not doing much, it's because of me. It's not because of outer circumstances. And the other thing is, I wrote down under the control of, because if you look at the people in the devil card, they're controlled by the devil. So it's not that I'm controlled by the devil, but maybe it's making me think about what influence am I responding to, or am I under the control of? So if I'm worried about the coronavirus and the economy, then I'm going to look at other areas of life in a negative way as well, because I'm kind of programmed to see the worst. But if I'm optimistic, and if I think, okay, the human race has had terrible problems to deal with, and we keep getting better and we keep moving on. So if I take that kind of attitude and ignore the devil, because the devil can represent that which is evil, right? So if I ignore apparently evil stuff or bad stuff and problems, because the cat is upside down. So if I ignore the devil, maybe nothing can hold me back. So, my point is, I think, I look at the card, I look at any card, and I don't have to tell the questioner everything about the card. I'm going to leave out almost everything, and all I do is pick, and I use I don't want to say intuition, but I use my common sense, let's say, to figure out what's relevant and what's important for that questioner at answering that question. The other thing I wanted to mention was that the horoscope spread is really bad because you get any card and you have to figure out what it might mean in multiple different areas of life. It can be about a person. So maybe you look at the devil and it tells you about a person. It tells you about how you make money, how you spend money, about your value sense, about your brothers and sisters, about driving, about short distance trips, about long distance trips. And you've got to be able to think of an answer for what the devil would mean in all those different areas and more. And that's why it's bad, because it's complicated or it's wide-ranging. But the horoscope spread is also really good for the same reason, because you've got to figure out what a card means in all these different areas. So it's good exercise, and it gets you more clear in your mind about what a card is and what it's pointing to and what it's good for and what it's bad for, and so on. So you're not looking at a list of possible meanings and trying to figure out the correct meaning for that questioner. Sorry, can't remember what I wrote here. Okay, I did that point. Okay, so me and the devil reversed. So the devil, think about the devil card. Yesterday when I made the video, I made a mistake so that the screen went blank. I pushed the space bar on the keyboard and it stopped the audio recording. And the thing is, I did that once before, maybe not for a year, but I have done it, and I knew, part of me knew, that touching the space bar would stop the recording. So maybe that's what the devil reverse means, that I made a silly mistake. So when the devil reverse comes up, you're going to make silly mistakes. So if you make a mistake, a silly mistake, it's because you didn't remember what you already knew. You had forgotten it, or you hadn't had to remember it for a while. So if you make a mistake, you don't beat yourself up and assume that you're doomed and that you're an idiot. You made a mistake. It was to remind you of something you'd forgotten. So when you remember it, you can then move on. So the devil reverse doesn't have to be major, gloomy, despondency, terrible, horrible conditions. It can simply be, you're going to make a mistake. If you do and you catch it, don't make it again. So that was what I thought this morning. And then this is the second time of making this video, because I put in a small card in the camera, and I got halfway through and it ran out of space in the camera and stopped. So I had the whole video done, but there was only half of the picture, because I forgot to check. I assumed that the card would handle it, And so that may be what you'd learn from the devil reverse. Assume nothing. So, so the thing is, okay, part of being able to read cards is you've got a lot of stories you can tell, or a lot of information you can pass on. So with me, or with you, if the devil reverse comes up, if I happen to remember this thing about pushing the space bar, then I can pass on that story and the lesson of the story, which is, if you, the questioner with the devil reversed, if you happen to make a small mistake or a silly mistake, don't beat yourself up. Make a note so you don't make that same mistake again and move on. So if you have, so when you look at your first house card, what you're doing is you're figuring out what you might say to yourself, or what you could say to yourself, but also what you might say to somebody else who got that same card. And so what you're doing is you're building up a database, we can say, of stories and incidents and examples that belong with that card and that kind of question. And then it means that if you get, so let's say you're looking at a question about marriage or partnerships, and you've got a particular card and you learn something about that card. That means the next time you do a question about a relationship, if that same card comes up, you may remember what happened before, so you can talk about it, and you can give an actual example from before, or an actual example that you lived through. So you're going to be able to talk fluently. You're not going to be lost for words. So it's not like you have to try and remember what somebody else said it meant. You're working from your own understanding. And even if your understanding is small, it's still your understanding, and you can build on it. It doesn't have to be huge and wide. And I think that's kind of what I mean about intuition. So if you have a card and your intuition makes a connection to a story that you told before, or an idea you came up with when you were doing this kind of horoscope spread, that's correct, good use of intuition, because you're making a connection, a very fast connection, maybe a roundabout connection as well, but you're still making a connection. You're relating what you're saying to something that you'd already thought or you'd already done. So you're making a connection of something from something. But I think the problem with intuition is people make something of nothing, and it doesn't work. So if you've got a card and it reminds you of a story you told or something you heard, that's good use of intuition. But if you get a card and you start talking about something that you had no experience of, that you'd never heard anything about, and you're just kind of making it up, that's not intuition. That's fantasy or wish fulfillment. But it's not really a good use of the tarot. And I don't think you're probably speaking what's relevant and important for the questioner to hear. Okay. That's it for the moment. So next will be part 2 of the horoscope spread, where we'll look at the 4th, 5th and 6th houses. And I'll see you quite soon. Okay? Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.